It's August the 3rd, and I want to address the political aspects of the recent Delta variant COVID breakout. In the last video, I discussed the numbers and the actual trends, but in this one, I want to go into the political aspects. And I think what we see happening here is sort of a split. On the one hand, we have the blue states controlled by Democrats, who are moving in the direction of mask mandates and those kind of restrictions. On the other hand, you see the red states controlled by Republicans. They're going completely the opposite direction. In fact, Governor DeSantis in Florida just recently put out an executive order that was banning the requirement of masks in schools. Okay, so this is going to set up a situation where there probably is going to be a winner or a loser politically, depending on how things turn out. If you like these videos, please subscribe, give me a like, which helps with the algorithm, and if you want to get notified, click the bell when you get the notifications for upcoming videos. Okay, so you can see what could happen here, and it all depends on what the actual death rate from this wave is. We have a situation where we have a high degree of vaccination now, added to a large number of people with natural immunity from already having the illness. Okay. And that probably would consist of roughly 2/3 of the total population, something like that. I mean, 70%, I think, have just reached getting one shot, which for the two-shot sequences is a pretty good level. But but remember, you also need there's a time lag for it to take effect, and you really need the second shot. So we're still a few weeks away from those individuals being fully vaccinated. On the other hand, there's a large number of people that have natural immunity. So one thing I think we need to make a distinction is that, and as I put in the data I track, I'm referring to these things as positive tests. Now, a person can test positive for COVID, and it may very well mean they are infected, assuming that's not a false positive. But what that still means, it doesn't necessarily give a clear indication of what level of illness the person's going to have. It could be anything from something milder than a cold on the one hand to something that literally will lead to mortality on the other. In other words, there's a wide variation in outcomes there. And I think now that we have a higher degree of immunity in the population, we're going to have a lot less mortality. That's kind of my general thought about that subject. Now, but again, the data is fragmentary, and I think it's still uncertain. I think we'll have a better idea in a week or so, actually, as we get more cases. I do some charts on this for my own purposes, and they basically are kind of tending in that direction right now, but day to day it's a very jagged reporting, and so one day you'll get almost no report, the next day you'll get a massive number, and so I'm generally focused on the 7-day average, which again I'd like to see at least another week to get a clear idea of the trends before we really start making any calls on this. But I do think that, again, the political gamble is there that if the Republicans are right that this is not going to lead to a lot of deaths, then the Democrats will probably end up being the losers in this. Because the other aspect we have to realize is the Democrats are driving this massive border surge, and they, in league with Catholic Charities, are actually placing people throughout the country who are COVID infected, and they're putting them into the areas with the least vaccinated groups of people. So there's no doubt this is going to cause a lot of, as a driver in the pandemic. Everybody likes to focus on the conservative people who talk a lot about not wanting the vaccine and not getting it. But the reality is that it's really the minority populations that are less vaccinated than the white populations, okay? And so the reality is that's the group that's going to be getting the most infections because of two things. One, they're going to be commingled with people infected, and two, they're less vaccinated. So at any rate, that's kind of the situation as I see it there, and we'll just have to wait and see whose gamble pays off the best, I guess. The other thing that's coming up here, and I think we should talk a little bit about this too, which is the bills that are now pending before the Senate. And there's two distinct bills, and a lot of the discussion, I think these things are getting conflated. I certainly heard people on talk shows and even on Fox News who don't seem to fully grasp the situation here, at least the way I see it. One is this bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is mostly traditional infrastructure items that most people, I think, would think is a good thing. The other is this large, massive Democrats-only bill that will be passed by reconciliation. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi and the progressives in the Senate and the House side are saying they're not going to pass the first bill if the other one doesn't come through. Okay, at least so. But they're two distinct things, and I don't see, like people seem to pretend, like the first bill, that is the bipartisan bill, somehow enables the second bill. Even if the bipartisan bill wasn't passed, you could still pass with reconciliation the same things that the progressives want. And I think that if the Republicans were to totally stiff the few moderate Democrats they're negotiating with, I think you'd find it much more likely that all 50 Democrats in the Senate would vote for a more radical bipartisan bill in the final analysis. Okay? Because they're being put in a position that they're not getting anything done and they're just siding with the Republicans. So I think it's my thinking that by working with people like Manchin and Sinema and others, if we can negotiate a bipartisan deal and agree to support it through the filibuster limit in return for them opposing certain key items that could be put into the reconciliation bill. The biggest one, of course, is amnesty for illegal immigration. Okay, in some form, and I'm still not sure what magnitude they're talking about that, but that is one thing that we got to really fight to keep out of the reconciliation bill. And it only takes one Democrat senator to say no, and it's gone. Okay. That is, now, we haven't had a lot of luck with that overall, but I think here maybe we can make this deal. If we can keep amnesty out of the reconciliation bill and hopefully minimize the scope of it, minimize the amount of it, minimize the tax increases. Remember, only Democrats are going to be passing this, and they have the power to do it. Okay, then I think we've done as good as we can in a bad situation. This sort of situation became inevitable when we lost those 2 Senate seats in Georgia. If we'd have only had one of those, we'd be in a completely different world here, a different set of risks. But as it is, this is a situation. So at any rate, I think hopefully that clears up my position on it. This is not, in my opinion, in any way to aid Biden. In fact, I think it's doing the best we can to hold him back. Okay, and remember, we have limited capabilities here for the moment. Hopefully we'll win the election in 2022 and take the House, and that will shut down a lot of what is going on that's bad. And maybe if we can hold the Senate, which is going to be, I think, more challenging but possible, then I think we might be in a much better position going forward. Okay, so at any rate, I just wanted to kind of make these points. If you want to keep updated with what I'm thinking, you can follow me on social media, and the links are below. I'm on Twitter, Gab, and Parler. Okay, I'll close this for now.